Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today, we're diving into a deeply unsettling and important topic, the Robert Card shooting case. This tragic event unfolded in Lewiston, Maine, and it's considered the deadliest mass shooting in the state's history. Robert Card, the suspect, allegedly killed 18 people in a bowling alley and a bar before evading law enforcement for days. He was later found dead of an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. The impact of this case is far-reaching, affecting not just the victims and their families, but also raising serious questions about mental health, gun control, and the effectiveness of our law enforcement agencies. It's a case that we can't afford to ignore, as it exposes glaring gaps in our societal systems that need urgent attention. Call to action. Before we go any further, if you find discussions like this important, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue to bring you in-depth analyses of critical issues like this one. Let's aim for 1,000 likes to raise awareness about the importance of mental health and public safety. Alright, let's get into it. Robert Card was a 40-year-old Army reservist, assigned to a training facility in Saco, Maine. He enlisted in the Army Reserve back in December 2002 and served as a petroleum supply specialist. Contrary to some initial reports, Card had no combat deployments. His military awards include the Army Achievement Medal, Army Reserve Component Achievement Medal, Humanitarian Service Medal, National Defense Service Medal, and Army Service Ribbon. Interestingly, Card was due to retire from the Army this year, according to a post from his now-deleted Facebook account. Two senior law enforcement officials disclosed that Card's unit commanders had sent him for psychiatric treatment during the summer due to concerns about threats he made to the base and his claims of hearing voices. He underwent approximately 2 weeks of inpatient psychiatric treatment before being discharged, but it remains unclear what subsequent actions were taken. The family of Robert Card had been sounding the alarm about his deteriorating mental health for months before the tragic events unfolded. According to the Sagadahoc County Sheriff's Office, the family first contacted authorities on May 3, 2023, expressing concerns that started as early as January of that year. They were particularly worried because Card had access to firearms. In addition to family warnings, Card's Army Reserve unit also requested a wellness check on him in September. During this period, Card was not at his residence, but the alert included a warning that he was known to be armed and dangerous. His behavior had been erratic enough to warrant extreme caution from law enforcement. Card's former wife and their teenage son also visited a school resource officer with concerns about his mental state. They noted that Card was exhibiting paranoid behavior and had a significant number of firearms in his possession. His son even mentioned that his father had started to claim that people were saying things about him in public, a sign of possible auditory hallucinations or severe paranoia. Law enforcement agencies had multiple interactions with Robert Card before the tragic events unfolded. The Sagadahoc County Sheriff's Office had been alerted twice about Card's deteriorating mental health and his access to firearms. The first alert came in May when family members expressed concerns about his mental state and the 10 to 15 guns he had gathered from a family property. However, the documents do not specify how this was resolved. In September, a U.S. Army reservist reached out to the police, warning that Card was paranoid and mentally ill. The reservist also alerted the authorities that Card had threatened to shoot up the Army Reserve facility in Saco. This prompted the police to attempt to locate Card and potentially confiscate his firearms. However, they couldn't find him. Instead, they relied on Card's family to take the firearms away. The Sagadahoc County Sheriff's Office issued an attempt to locate notice for Card, noting him as armed and dangerous. This alert was canceled on October 18th, just a week before the mass shooting occurred. The sheriff stated that they believed they had acted appropriately and followed procedures for attempting to locate a potentially dangerous person. The timeline leading up to the tragic events involving Robert Card is a chilling sequence of missed opportunities and failed interventions. Here's how it unfolded. January to May 2023, family members start noticing signs of Robert Card's deteriorating mental health. They contact the Sagadahoc County Sheriff's Office in May, expressing concerns about his mental state and his access to firearms. Summer 2023, Card's Army Reserve unit commanders sent him for psychiatric treatment due to concerns about threats he made to the base and claims of hearing voices. September 2023, a wellness check is requested by Card's Army Reserve unit. Law enforcement attempts to locate Card but are unsuccessful. An attempt to locate notice is issued, describing him as armed and dangerous. October 18, 2023. The attempt to locate notice is canceled, just a week before the mass shooting. October 25, 2023, 6:56 p.m. The first 911 call is made, reporting shots fired at Just-in-Time Recreation Bowling Alley in Lewiston, Maine. At least 7 victims die here. 7:08 p.m. A second 911 call is made, this time from Skiminji's Bar and Grill, around 4 miles away from the first location. At least 8 victims are confirmed to have died at this scene. Later that evening, a third call comes in from a Walmart facility reporting a potential active shooter, which turns out to be a false alarm. October 27, 2023. After a 2-day manhunt, Robert Card's body is found near the Androscoggin River, about 8 miles southeast of where the second shooting took place. The day of the mass shooting involving Robert Card was a harrowing sequence of events that unfolded in a matter of minutes, leaving communities in shock and despair. Here's a minute-by-minute breakdown. 6:56 p.m., the first 911 call is made. The caller reports that shots have been fired at Just-in-Time Recreation Bowling Alley in Lewiston, Maine. Law enforcement and emergency services are dispatched immediately. At least 7 victims are confirmed dead at this location. 7 p.m., police arrive at the bowling alley and secure the area. They find multiple victims and begin administering first aid. 7:08 p.m., a second 911 call is made, this time from Skiminji's Bar and Grill, which is about 4 miles away from the first location. Law enforcement is dispatched. At least 8 victims are confirmed to have died at this scene. 7:12 p.m., police arrive at Skiminji's Bar and Grill and find a similar horrific scene. They secure the area and begin administering first aid to the victims. 7:20 p.m., reports of a potential third shooter at a Walmart facility come in. Law enforcement is dispatched, but it turns out to be a false alarm. 7:30 p.m., law enforcement agencies issue a description of the suspect, Robert Card, and his vehicle. They also release photos of him holding a semi-automatic rifle. 7:45 p.m., a statewide manhunt is initiated, involving hundreds of state and local officers and at least 80 FBI agents. 8 p.m., law enforcement agencies hold a press conference, updating the public on the situation and urging residents to stay indoors. Later that evening, after a massive manhunt, Robert Card is still at large. The search continues into the night. The tragedy that unfolded at the hands of Robert Card left a deep impact on the lives of many. While we remember the victims, it's crucial to share their stories respectfully without exploiting their pain. Here are some of their stories. Justin Karcher. Justin Karcher was the first person shot at Skiminji's Bar and Grill in Maine. He was playing pool with his best friend and the friend's dad when the tragedy struck. Karcher was severely injured, sustaining gunshot wounds to his liver, spinal cord, shoulder, and stomach. He is currently fighting for his life on a ventilator in the ICU. The hardest part for his family is not knowing what the outcome will be. This isn't the first time the family has faced tragedy. In 2019, Karcher's father was shot and killed in front of him in a Walmart parking lot. The best friend, Justin's best friend, who was with him during the shooting, was among the 18 victims who lost their lives. The family is yet to break this news to Justin, as they believe it will be a challenging topic to discuss when the time is right. The unnamed survivors. While specific details about other survivors are scarce, it's important to remember that each one of them has a story, a family, and a life that has been irrevocably changed. They are not just statistics, but human beings who have endured an unimaginable tragedy. The public and media reaction to the Robert Card case has been intense and varied. Social media platforms are flooded with opinions, speculations, and calls for justice. News outlets like MSN, USA Today, and Newsweek have been covering the case extensively, focusing on different aspects such as Card's background, mental health, and the law enforcement response. The media has also delved into Card's social media activity, trying to piece together his mindset leading up to the tragic events. Fact-checking has been another focal point, with outlets like USA Today debunking false information circulating online about Card's arrest. The public's reaction has been a mix of shock, anger, and calls for better mental health support and gun control measures. The case has sparked debates on various online forums and social media platforms, with people questioning how someone with reported mental health issues was able to commit such a heinous act. The legal aspects of the Robert Card case raise several questions. Despite warnings about his deteriorating mental health and concerns from his commanding officers, Card was still able to possess firearms. According to reports, an amendment to his divorce judgment required both Card and his ex-wife to keep any weapons under lock and key when they weren't being used. However, this clearly was not enough to prevent the tragedy. Law enforcement agencies are also under scrutiny for their initial response to the warnings about Card. Questions are being raised about whether enough was done to evaluate his mental state and whether the existing laws are sufficient to prevent individuals with mental health concerns from possessing firearms. The case has exposed gaps in the legal system, including the lack of effective measures for timely intervention in cases involving mental health and firearms. It serves as a grim reminder that legal loopholes and systemic failures can have devastating consequences. The Army Reserve's involvement in Robert Card's life adds another layer of complexity to this case. Card enlisted in the Army Reserves in 2002 and served as a petroleum supply specialist. He held the rank of Sergeant First Class and was assigned to the Reserve's 3rd Battalion. 304th Infantry Regiment in Saco, Maine. Despite his long tenure and various military honors, concerns were raised about his mental state. During his deployment this summer to the Army Reserve Unit at Camp Smith Training Center in New York, commanding officers were so concerned about his mental condition that they called the police to take him to the Keller Army Community Hospital for evaluation. However, it's unclear whether Card was diagnosed with any mental conditions during this evaluation. This raises questions about the military's role and responsibility in addressing the mental health of its service members. The Robert Card case is a glaring example of the gaps in our mental health system. Despite multiple red flags, including concerns from his family, friends, and even commanding officers in the Army Reserve, Card's mental health issues were not adequately addressed. The system failed to provide timely intervention and appropriate mental health services. This is not just a failure of the healthcare system but also a societal issue. The stigma surrounding mental health often prevents people from seeking help, and when they do, the available services are often inadequate or inaccessible. This case serves as a wake-up call for the need to reform our mental health system, from improving accessibility to mental health services to implementing more effective intervention strategies. The Robert Card shooting has left an indelible mark on the Lewiston community and Maine at large. The tragedy unfolded at two popular local spots, Just in Time Recreation and Schemangee's Bar and Grill. The victims ranged in age from 14 to 76 and included a boy bowling with his father, contestants in a cornhole tournament for the deaf, and several fathers who leave behind young children. The community was gripped by fear during the two-day manhunt for Card, with many residents afraid to leave their homes. The governor of Maine, Janet Mills, expressed that while there's a sense of relief that Card is no longer a threat, the community has a long and difficult road to healing ahead. The impact extends beyond the immediate victims. It has shaken the very fabric of the community, affecting schools, local businesses, and the overall sense of security among residents. As of now, the investigations into the Robert Card case are still ongoing. Law enforcement agencies are working diligently to piece together the events leading up to and following the tragic shooting. The focus is not just on Card's actions, but also on systemic failures that may have allowed this tragedy to occur. The community is eager for answers, especially as they try to navigate the complicated emotions of relief and ongoing grief. While the immediate threat has been neutralized with Card's death, many questions remain unanswered. The investigations aim to provide some form of closure to the victims' families and to prevent similar tragedies in the future. The Robert Card case serves as a sobering reminder of the vulnerabilities in our society and institution. From the gaps in the mental health system to the shortcomings in law enforcement and military oversight, there are several lessons to be learned. Mental health awareness. The case highlights the urgent need for better mental health services and awareness. Institutions need to be proactive in identifying signs of mental health deterioration and providing timely intervention. Law enforcement training. Law enforcement agencies need to be better equipped to handle cases involving individuals with mental health issues. This includes training on how to assess and manage such situations effectively. Military responsibility. The military must take a more active role in monitoring the mental health of its service members and providing necessary support. Community vigilance. Communities need to be more vigilant and aware of their surroundings. If you see something, say something. In conclusion, the Robert Card case is a tragic event that has left a lasting impact on the Lewiston community and Maine at large. It has exposed several systemic failures, from gaps in mental health services to shortcomings in law enforcement and military oversight. While the community begins its long road to healing, it's crucial for us as a society to learn from this tragedy and make necessary changes to prevent similar occurrences in the future. Stay informed, seek mental health help if you or someone you know is struggling, and be vigilant in your communities. Hit that subscribe button to stay updated on this case and other important issues. Let's aim for 12,000 subscribers to keep this crucial conversation going.